I realized how deep the unemployment fraud was when I got an unemployment claim for myself.
Oh, I filed it. I just forgot to tell you. I'm just saying, everybody else getting over in COVID. Why can't I?
And we're back. Welcome to the latest episode of Commerce and Chill. My name is Jessica Johnson Cope.
I'm Waleed.
Hi, Waleed. What's good?
All's good. How you doing?
I'm good. I just wanted to spend the next few minutes talking to our fans in Commerce and Chill land. And today we're going to talk about a very serious matter. So this is our public service announcement to you on fraud. That's right. F-R-A-U-D, fraud. Now, if you've been part of Commerce and Chill community for a while, you may say, well, we heard you talk about fraud before, but today is going to be different. We're going to talk about fraudulent claims, particularly some of the things that we've experienced. Hear me out. There's a lot of free government money out there right now. And when I say free, understand that it's really not free. But while the government is giving out money, if you can get it good. But because there's so much money flowing and not a high level of accountability, some people are trying to game the system, which is how we get at fraud. I have a couple of sayings, just a handful of sayings that you hear me say all of the time. One of them is, you got to give people, when people say to me, you got to give people the benefit of a doubt. Remember, benefits have to be earned. So I don't know where you go and you start a job in less than a month, you get 6 days off. But hey, it's a new normal, right? That's what they say about this pandemic.
It's no new normal. It's just what the are you thinking? Like, you have like zero regard. You come in here, you give an interview in the interview. Yes, this. Oh, I
need to work.
I need to work.
I need a check.
I want to start immediately. Please hire me. Okay, here's the opportunity. Oh, I get an alert. Oh, I need to go off for a week because I'm going to the Caribbean or something. I'm like, wait a minute. Aren't you the same person in the interview who told me you need to hurry up and get this job because you got bills to pay, you got to pay rent, you got whatever responsibilities you claiming, and now all of a sudden you going to kick your feet up in the sand in the warm water? What the?
So that gives me great entree.
So you want to talk about fraud?
Let me give you the
fraud.
Let me give you the
somebody
definition
came
of fraud.
into an interview and was selling me some song and dance and talking about, oh, that's fraud. That's misrepresentation.
According to Webster, the definition of fraud is deceit, trickery, intentional perversion of the truth in order to induce another
you need a check
to
so bad
part
you want to
with
work.
something of
I'll
value,
work 6 days a week. Please just give me the opportunity
to surrender a
You
legal
gonna work
right.
6 days in on the beach? What is this? That's fraud. Now, business fraud.
What kind of fraud do you see? What kind of fraud do you experience most often in business?
This is some bullshit.
Oh,
I don't like. What kind of fraud do I see in business? I see fraud in interviews where people come in and tell me one thing and then you hire them and you see something else.
Okay.
Isn't this COVID season? How come I hear so many people talking about there are no jobs out there? It's really tough right now. I really want to work. And then you give them an opportunity, they don't work. Or
they do work. They just want to work on their own time.
They want to check, but they don't want to work. Your question is about business fraud?
What type of business fraud do you see most often?
Just keep my phone away from me.
Give it here.
Business fraud.
Yeah. What's your experience with respect to fraud in business?
The two
what
biggest
kind do you
thing
see most often?
Is the one I just said, interviews, based on your definition of fraud. The second one is checks.
Applicant fraud.
Right? Is with checks, whether it's you writing payroll checks or you're writing checks to your vendors, which I hardly do because I send my vendors payments electronically. Unemployment fraud. People making false claims. And when I say people, the individual who worked with you or currently working at your firm. Oh, yes, you heard me right. Currently. Because you can get, people can file for unemployment and they will give it to them while they're still working with you. Go figure that one out.
So I was listening to New York Public Radio the other day and I heard them tell a story about how early in the pandemic, like in April of last year, the state of New York overpaid thousands of people their unemployment benefits.
No wonder we can't balance the budget.
Because they were out of the office, they were understaffed, and the controls that are normally in place weren't able to check the system. And so as a result, the people who received these generous overpayments have a couple of choices. They can either return the money, which in many cases we know has already been spent, and the likelihood of them returning the money, especially if they're not working, is not high. They can reduce their current benefits and have a portion taken back to repay for the monies that were given, or they can figure something out. Now, the thing is, 9 times out of 10, the state's not going to get that money out back. And what people don't understand, especially if you run a business or you intend to employ people, because you can't always use 1099. Everything doesn't necessarily work on a gig economy basis. Is that if you employ people, you as an employer are paying into the unemployment insurance program. That's right, folks.
Regardless.
It's an insurance. And so you have to, every time you pay somebody, you have to write a check to the state Department of Labor or whomever manages the program for your state, based on a percentage.
Which is bananas. You could never get a claim for your business, and you still have to pay the insurance every time.
So every time we run a payroll, we're making contributions to our unemployment.
So if you get 2 or 3 a month, you still get a percentage that comes out your payroll. And that percentage doesn't cover, it's not a direct correlation between the person or people who apply for it from your business and the amount that you get taxed. You could have 0 claims. For a while, we had no claims at one of the business, 0. And like most recently, like I can count the number of claims we had before COVID. Now all of a sudden COVID, I get a letter in the mail all the time. And the other thing is, some of the letters not even real people. There are people who are working at one of our businesses, and I get a letter and be like, oh, unemployment. Then I turn around and be like, yo, bro, you not working here no more? You filed for unemployment. They're like, Mr. Cope, I swear I didn't file for it.
That's not even my address.
That's not my real address because somebody filed it in their name.
So I can tell you in the past month and a half.
But you still get charged.
I have at least 5 friends who have been the victims of unemployment fraud.
And they go into work every day.
So number one, I want you to be on high alert. Remember, this is a public service announcement. I want you to be on high alert to know that someone may be trying to use your identity to claim unemployment benefits. It happened to my bestie. It happened to my entrepreneur bestie when he didn't even know that somebody was claiming uninsurance benefits on his behalf until that person went on to try to get a loan in his name.
How can the state and the systems not figure this out?
Was rejected because of his credit score. So he started laughing like, oh, you should pick somebody with a better credit score before you try to do identity theft. And here at Johnson Security,
how do you not figure this out?
I realized how deep the unemployment fraud was when I got an unemployment claim for myself.
Oh, I filed it. I just forgot to tell you. I'm just saying, everybody else getting over in COVID. Why can't I?
Well, whomever it was trying to claim unemployment in my name for my company, but they live in Tennessee.
But we still paying for it.
We still pay for it.
Hence my point.
Right. And to give you an example of the extent of the fraud, the state of Colorado has been one of the states whose unemployment system has been hit the hardest. As of 2 days ago, they were recording close to $19.4 million, $19.4 million lost in fraudulent unemployment insurance.
So what are they considering fraudulent? Somebody doing it in somebody else's name, or people who are just, because that happens too, people who just don't want to go to work. We've got that. People who file for unemployment and they called us and said, you know what, I just don't want to work anymore. And then they went home, did whatever, unemployment started sending them a check. And then they sent us a letter saying, oh, this person is getting unemployment. I'm like, wait a minute. They sent me an email. They called me. They said, oh, I don't want to work anymore, Cope. I want to stay home. And they told me literally, call me when COVID is over. Like, how am I supposed to know when it's going to be over? So they sat home and got unemployment. Or those who are working. And, well, I won't even talk about that part.
So to go back to your previous
fraud.
question, many of the states, when they talk about fraud in the unemployment system, it's when somebody other than the person who was employed tries to get those benefits.
So they spent 19 point whatever million.
They're reporting a loss of 19.4 million and think that they have close to 1.2 fraudulent cases. And so I read one story that said that there was a woman who had her apartment for rent on Craigslist. And she hadn't tended to the apartment because it was vacant, right?
Really?
She's
so somebody used her apartment
somebody shows
address,
it and it's COVID. I don't need to go.
and she shows up with a bunch of unemployment letters sitting in her mailbox. Right.
She said there were unemployment letters for over 70 different people addressed to her vacant rental property. And she believed that.
First of all, how does the system not realize 70 people living in one address? Go figure that one out. Wait, I can Google an address and see a street image of it and be like, this is a 3-story house. And then I go to Zillow and put in the address, and Zillow says it's a 2-family house. So every 70 people live in apartment 2. How can that be? Oh, let me look at the details on Zillow. Oh, it's a 1-bedroom. It's not a 70-bedroom apartment. It's a 1-bedroom apartment. And she's got 70 unemployment letters for the same address with different people.
She has letters for 70 different people.
Not 70 letters. I'm sorry. 70 different people.
Like, from what I could see in the picture in the article, she had baskets.
Sad.
You know how the mail carriers have those baskets of mail?
Like those corrugated plastic things.
She had the equivalent of like 2 to 3 boxes of those
the
letters.
They send a letter every time someone applies to the business for you to be aware of the potential charges and for you to give any feedback if anything is incorrect or you want to protest it.
And
3 bins.
In Colorado, as a result of the fraud that they've identified, they now have put blocks on unemployment benefits to people, many who are probably very deserving,
right? So
of $437 million.
Right. So people who need it now can't apply because of the fraud, and they're sitting at home with no source of income, legitimately out of work. And because the system allowed this individual or these individuals to file false claims in 70 people's names to one address. Like, how hard would it be to write a line of code to say, if you see this many duplicate addresses, it red flags it? It not saying it doesn't let it go through, but it brings it to somebody's attention where they can look at their screen and be like, damn, 70 to this one address? Let me look at this address. This is an apartment building? Like, is everybody in this apartment building unemployed? Like, how is not, like, I get notifications on my phone. Like, your apps, then this, that, and the third. They have all these features. And you're telling me we can't figure this out on a state or a city
Opportunity
or a level?
alert. Opportunity alert. If you in IT, if you're in investigations, you might want to reach out to your local Department of Labor or your local state agency that oversees it. But the bad part is,
who gets affected by that? The taxpayer.
The taxpayer, but the people who really most need the money.
Right. The taxpayer and the person who really needs the benefit who can't apply.
Right.
Or because there's a depreciation, the funds get depleted, right? And then the budget or whatever. Like, come on. Like, there will always be people who want to get over. I get it. But can't we do a better job of putting something in place to protect those who need it and protect the businesses who are contributing the dollars to the unemployment insurance fund? Checks, payroll, fraud.
Keep your head on a swivel.
Checks, payroll, fraud.
Checks, payroll, fraud.
You have a company. You write checks for your employees. You don't do direct deposit, or you do a mixture of both. You're opening yourself up to fraud because now you have a bunch of checks in people's hands, and they take whether to a bank or they take to a check cashing place. What happens there? Now your check gets exposed, which anybody can get your account and routing number and do whatever, and just print a check online or have it printed by any of these printing agencies. But you got to be careful. So you send out 200 checks for payroll. They're going every which way. They're going to check cashing places. They're going to liquor stores. Whoever will cash a check. They're going to some banks. They're getting phone apps where people use the banking phone app. So that opens up your business to a lot of opportunities for fraud.
Right.
Because that instrument is going all over the place.
Right.
What are some things you put in place to protect JSB with 200 payroll checks going out on a regular basis?
Wait, can we just go back to unemployment fraud real
Go
quickly?
for it.
So we talked about when somebody other than a person claims, but then sometimes, like you mentioned, there are people who are currently employed who submit claims for unemployment. So one of our favorite pastimes used to be going to the unemployment hearings.
Yeah.
COVID changed that all up.
My record is good.
Yeah, but you would be surprised some of the things that we hear and see when we go to unemployment hearings. Like, for real, the things that people believe and tell the judges.
Yeah, I've heard some crazy stuff with the judges right in front of me, too.
But
he just said that.
If you are an employer and you have employees and someone claims unemployment, that they're deserving of unemployment insurance, that they're typically steps that you can take if you think that that claim is baseless. And so what we typically will do is we'll send a response to the agency and let them know the situation under which that person was released, if they were released, or the situation in the schedule of the person if they're still working, right? Because there, in some cases, if you're working part-time, if you're going to school, you may be eligible. Cool in a gang. But like you said, there's somebody saying, I just don't feel like working. I'm going to stay home till COVID is over. It may never be over. That's not legitimate. And so I got frustrated because each month, especially while we were working every day and some folks were sitting at home waiting for COVID to end, we would get a detailed, itemized list of the withdrawals from our account for unemployment insurance benefits. And the list sometimes would be 3 pages long.
3 pages.
3 pages. And then it's double columns. So for each page, it's 2 listings per line. And I would go through and say, that person quit. That person's still working. And so for each person, we would have to send a response to let the state know that we didn't think that there was a real basis for unemployment.
Posted.
And I didn't hear any response back from the state. So I was like, oh, okay. I was about to get about it. And so I said, what can I do? So I wrote a letter to the governor. I wrote a letter to the mayor, and I wrote a letter to the commissioner of labor here in New York State. And it had to be close to Christmas. So I sent the letters off, and the governor's office, the Department of Labor got back to me. And they were like, yeah, we see that you've been writing us letters. Like, yeah. They said, oh, yeah, we got at least 84 letters about uninsurance employment claims against your firm. I'm like, yeah. They're like, wow, your letters are pretty thorough. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not here for that. I'm not here for the fraud. Anyway, just know, if you're taking advantage of the system because you think the system's not watching, somebody's watching. And when they come back, they're going to come back for vengeance. And Lord help you, because it might not be nice. That's my 2 cents.
Don't think it's free money.
It's not free money.
What happens when you file your tax return? You think you're getting a return and they start pulling back money from you. Then what? Yeah. But anyway, fraud. Yeah. Payroll
fraud. Go ahead. You talk about it. You said what kind of...
Well, I asked you a question. You wanted to talk about the letters.
So which is
a good point. So you need to reach out and communicate so you can get those things removed from your account so it doesn't mess up your business. What is it called?
Your experience rating.
Your experience rating. The higher the percentage, the more your unemployment insurance taxes. They say unemployment insurance. It's a tax. But yeah, the higher that percentage, the more you pay. So you want to manage those claims that come up, especially when you know they're either fraud or someone is claiming when they were let go due to cause or they chose to leave. So that way you keep your percentage low, so you're not, putting more of your funds to that.
And one last note on unemployment insurance for you, if you have employees or intend to have employees.
Payroll.
Don't play with not sending your uninsurance payments in on time, because there is no mercy for late payments or non-payments. They will come at you with a vengeance, and the penalties and the fees are extreme. The interest is extremely high.
Yeah, it is.
So remember, like he said, it's basically a tax. It's not your money. It's the government's money. Give it to them. Give it to them one time, and you spare yourself a lot of headache, because you don't want to be out of the business of being in business on a technicality.
Yeah.
And
so just respond to everything. You get the notices, fill them out, fight the ones you can, look at what the potential charges are. And then some of them you just let go, because you got to balance out your time and effort, because you'll be spending time away from your business fighting a claim for potential charges of like, we've gotten some for $3 and change a week. And I'm just like, I don't care. Even though I know the person, like whatever them separating wasn't for, it was for cause. Let me put it that way, based using the language they use. And they were like, oh, they'll get $20 a week, or they'll get $90 a week. I'm like, it's not worth the effort and time to put into it versus someone who potentially gets like, I don't know, 600 or whatever, depending on what their salary was. So just manage your time, but check everything, respond to the claims, and look at the reports they send you. I think they send it on a monthly or quarterly basis that shows you all the charges that are coming into your account with a breakdown. Make sure you review it. Anything that doesn't look right, point it out. Reach out to them by phone, or write them a letter. Like, you'll be surprised. So payroll, checks,
fraud. Positive pay. If you bank with one of the major banks, please take advantage of positive pay, whether you pay electronically or with paper check.
You're not familiar with positive pay, it's simple. It's a feature they turn on in your bank account, and they monitor every check that comes through. And as far as I know, there's no extra charge for it at any bank that I've talked to about it so far. They turn it on, and it monitors every check that comes into your account. If the check does not match by number, the payee, and the dollar amount, when I say number, the check number, that the bank will automatically reject it. So the way positive pay works is you either have to input the check manually, any check you write, not a bank check. Because if you do it through the bank's website and have the bank send a check for you, then that gets, depending on your bank, check with them. It gets registered automatically because they're generating the check for you. But if you write a check or you print them out in your office, however you produce your checks, when you hand them out to people, you'll need to either upload a spreadsheet into positive pay that shows all the check numbers, all the payee, and the dollar amount. So when they go to cash that check wherever or deposit it, your bank will see it, match it against that list, and say approved or denied. Or you don't have to upload it at all. You will get an alert every day by text and email, if you so choose, by signing up with your bank, that will say you have checks to review. And you log into the portal and you look at each check one by one. You say pay or you say denied. And if you say denied, they kick it back and it gets sent back to the person
presenter.
The presenter. Right. Yeah, presenter.
I'll just add, it's not just payroll. So positive pays for any check that.
But
you
if you depending how many team members you have, you're probably going to write more checks for payroll than anything else, depending on how many people you have on your team and then what your business does.
So protect yourself. Get ACH for payments. You can pay by ACH. You can receive payments by ACH.
Yeah, but try to pay people like your vendors.
But keep in mind that
direct deposit is hard.
Banks have built-in protections. If you have team members, vendors, or whomever who are using check cash in places, those protections typically are not as strong. And their loss prevention people at the check cash in places, sometimes they're unscrupulous. They're like,
yeah, you don't
they're like
know who's
really bad debt
collectors.
Check. Don't F's with them. Don't. First of all,
you're just open.
I'm not throwing shade on the check cashing industry.
It's just it's more exposure for you because your team member takes the check and cashes it there. You don't know what happens once that check hits that window on their back end process.
Or who is dealing with it.
Or who's looking at it. So someone there can just take a picture of the check, in their back office and then get your account and routing number and then print a check, make it to whoever, and then try and cash it somewhere else. So it's a lot of ways. But the other reason positive pay is good too, when people try to double dip on a check you give them. And this is real life, and this is true scenario. So you give a team member a check to deposit. It's their payroll check. I've had it happen countless times. And what they do is they'll use their phone, use their banking app, and you take a picture of it. It's a great feature. I love it. I use it for my personal, and I use it for my business account. So one of my clients writes a check. We take a picture of it using the phone app and I deposit it. I don't have to worry about going to the bank or going to an ATM. It's huge. I do it right from my desk. I love it. But that convenience opens up the world to it opens up more opportunity for fraud. Here's another one for fraud you want to be careful of. And I don't know of anything to protect it except you, your eyes, and your due diligence. You should be routinely looking at your account, whether it's daily or every other day, and looking at every transaction that comes through. Every morning, I open up the banking app on my phone while I'm brushing my teeth or getting ready, or when I get out the shower and I'm like ironing, and I'll scroll through every transaction from the previous day. And they say pending before they hit. And I'll scroll through each one of them and look and say, do I remember writing a check for $12,000? What is this? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that was some equipment we ordered because the team is doing this film shoot, and they gave me a $12,000 budget. Folkes, psych. We spending $12,000 on a film shoot with some next level stuff going on here. But those days are coming. Best believe it. But you have to go through it and look. And the reason I say that is because you give someone a check, they have your account number and your routing number. There is nothing that can stop them from paying their personal bills with your account and routing number.
Preach.
They can take it and go online and put it in their cable, their cell phone,
their car note,
their insurance. Because when you make an ACH payment yourself, it just say your name, your account number, and routing number and the amount, and you put it in. So if you give somebody one of your checks, they have that information. So how do you catch that? Because Positive Pay is not looking at ACH. It's looking at a physical check. So you got to go and look at your stuff. And, the sad part about it is it's going to be annoying, but the bank is going to protect you. Because as soon as you see it and you report it to them, they're going to do whatever, and they're going to investigate and credit the money back to your account.
The key is to be timely about it. Make sure
you got to
you're
be
checking,
on it. So you should be looking at your account on a regular basis.
You might lose your protection.
Like, don't sleep looking at your account. Some people just be like, oh, woe is me, or whatever. I'm too busy. Yeah, be too busy. And somebody could be nickel and diming you to death.
Just going to say,
there's $1 here, there's $5 here, and you'll never know, especially if you got a lot of transactions coming through. You got to look at it or sync your accounting software to your bank account. So when you're working in your accounting software, you're looking at every transaction. I look at both.
And the same thing happens with your credit cards, right? Because when somebody is doing credit card fraud, they're not going to go out and buy Louboutins or pay their rent. What they're going to do is they're going to do a lot of little charges. They're going to go
some stuff
to
on
Outback and buy an appetizer. They're going to go to Foot Locker
or deliver
and
to
buy
a
a pair of
lady's
socks.
house that has 70 unemployment letters there, and then they go pick up the package sitting on the stoop.
Exactly.
Or the step.
Exactly.
You got to check everything. Use the features you have for free on your credit cards and your banking account. There is a feature on your banking account and your credit cards where you can set it, and your debit cards, to alert you every time there's a purchase made. And you can set a dollar limit to what you want. My dollar limit is $5. Anything hit my account more than $5, my phone goes ding. And the app tells me, and I get a text message. And nothing getting past my account. And on that note, use what you have to put yourself in a better place.
Stay vigilant. Keep your head up. Keep your head on a swivel.
Fraud will always be
Open your
there.
mail. Check your accounts. Check your credit card statements. And if anything seems out of order, get on the phone and follow up to see what's happening.
Hey, if you've got a story to tell about your personal story with business or starting a business or getting in business, DM us, email us, hit us up. We're taking guests on the Commerce and Chill podcast, and we want to hear your stories and share them with everyone else out there. So don't be shy. Hit us up. Reach out to us. We look forward to having you on Commerce and Chill.